Hello, this is Tony Blazer back with another 5 questions. This one's going to cover round 6 of the 2020 Monster Energy AMA Supercross Series in San Diego. Last week's race in Oakland was a barn burner, really exciting race. Had a great battle at the front between Ken Roczen and Eli Tomac, and an amazing comeback by Cooper Webb. Basically, it was everything you'd want in a race. Like I said, a lot of exciting racing. The track was excellent. Loved the track. Probably my favorite track of the year. Typically, I think when I think of the baseball style tracks, you think they're going to be a little bit tight, maybe not the most advantageous for racing, but somehow that layout worked out. There was a lot of great options. The dirt was great. It was fun to watch. You know, even the racing was great, and it was fun even when people weren't passing. It's just fun to watch. I like the obstacles. The obstacles were fun. That sand section was pretty crazy. Really just a great night of racing. So these are going to be my 5 questions, the 5 things I'm thinking about coming into the 6th round of the 2020 Supercross Series.
Number 1.
My first question for San Diego is, how healthy is Ken Roczen? One of the big takeaways from last week's race was the fact that Cooper Webb came through the pack there and put a kind of a bonsai torpedo pass there on Kenny at the very end, right before the finish. Kind of reminiscent of what happened last year at maybe Arlington when he got him at the last second. This time, Cooper ended up with second, which was great for him. Great to get him back in the title chase. But Kenny came out of what appeared to be at least a hurt foot. Mentioned that it was swelling up. I know Mathis said he was limping around after the race. I saw that HRC came out with a statement that he was going to race this weekend, which is great. I'm glad he's racing. But my question is just, how healthy is he? Ken has had so many problems with his health the last few years, whether it's injuries or just sicknesses, and he seems to be kind of back on track this year. It's really been the Kenny and Eli show since round 2, and I hope we keep seeing that. I want to see those guys go back and forth. I'm really pulling for Ken to finally get that Supercross title this year, and I hope this won't hold him back. Even though motocross isn't like running football. You're not you have a foot injury or something, you're not out there running, but it still can hurt you in the hard jump landings through the whoops and stuff. You put a lot of stress on that your foot and your ankle and what have you. So I'm not sure if he hurt his foot, hurt his ankle, what happened. Apparently they said there was no broken bones or anything, which is great. I ran my leg over 15 years ago whenever I was still racing, and got kind of sucked up in the back wheel of another guy. I had what they call a high ankle sprain, and that thing lingered for 6 months. It was brutal. I couldn't run for a while. It was just awful. One of the worst injuries I've had, actually. It took me longer to come back from that, I think, than when I got my knee reconstructed the first time. Just never really wanted to be, didn't feel like 100% for months and months and months. And I hope that's not one of those situations. Hopefully he's back up to speed this weekend and we see another great race at the front.
Number 2.
My second question for San Diego is Cooper Webb back. Is he back at the front for good? He got a second last week. I think the best finish he had got was maybe a third at maybe round 2 or something. Anyway, he certainly hasn't won yet. Last week's race was his most impressive ride so far. He was much better, wasn't getting blown by in the whoops. Now, the fact that there was smaller whoops last week, and they were much shorter, probably played into that somewhat, whether realistically as a hindrance to his riding, or maybe he just felt more confident knowing that that wasn't going to be his Achilles heel. If you look at the San Diego track, it looks like there's going to be 2 fairly long whoop sections. I don't think the lanes are not as long because it's a baseball stadium, so I don't think it'll be quite as bad as we saw at Glendale, but it could still be a problem for him. They're right back to back, so that's the exact kind of thing that's been kind of hurting him. I could just see Mookie blasting past him again there. I hope not. Like I said, it's definitely been his Achilles heel. It's going to be, a lot has to do with how the track, sorts itself out. If it ends up jumping by the main event or something, may not be as big a deal. If they're huge, like we've seen up to now, earlier in the year, something like from 2003 or something, I think it's going to be a big problem. But I personally want to see a 3-rider fight at the front. I'm a big Cooper Webb fan. I want to see him mixing it up with those guys at the front. If he gets a whole shot and the whoops don't hold him back too much, hopefully he can hold on and maybe get a win here and really mix things up. So that's my question. Is Cooper Webb legit up at the front, or was last week just kind of a little burp in an otherwise mediocre season?
Number 3.
My third question for round 6 is, Eli Tomac ready to take control of this series? It looks, at least on paper, that it is setting up perfectly for him. You had Ken having that problem last week where he got his foot ran over. Again, still to be seen exactly how healthy he is, whether he's going to be back up to speed. He came and passed Kenny twice last week. Really looked like the guy we saw 2-3 years ago when he was like the fastest guy in the class. So Eli's been very up and down. As we all know, that's been his Achilles heel. He's been really up and down, for the last 4 or 5 years, really. But we all keep waiting for him to kind of assert himself and take control of things. This is a perfect opportunity. He's only a few points out of the points lead. If Kenny isn't 100% and Eli can get a decent start this weekend, he could take the red plate, and maybe it helps him, take control of the series and motor off to his first Supercross title. I think it's still, the jury's still out on all that. I wouldn't bet on it. Like I said, Eli keeps saying that. Eli's been very unpredictable, so I wouldn't put money on it, but it really seems like it's lining up for him. He's got the momentum. His number one competitor's injured. Cooper's not shown to be much of a threat. Guys like Anderson, Zach, most of the people you might think would have been a big title contender coming into the series have not really been performing to any kind of threat to him up front. Guys like Barsha came out great, and he's kind of tailed off a little bit. So they're still getting like fourths and fifths. That's good. It keeps him fairly close, but I don't think it's any real threat to Eli or Kenny so far. So my question number 3 is Eli ready to finally take control of this series?
Number 4.
My fourth question for San Diego, is Justin Cooper done? Now, I don't mean out of the title fight. Certainly, he's still very close to the leaders, but he finally lost the points lead, lost that red plate. After winning the first round, it's been a series of kind of head-scratching performances. He salvaged the third last week, but with Ferrandis kind of ascending and Faulkner winning, crashing, he finally caught up with him. He had lost the points lead. I just wonder if he is ever going to kind of make it mesh, kind of crank it up. I mean, even outdoors, he's shown a lot of speed, but he hasn't been able to kind of finish the title fight, and it seems like maybe the Supercross title is kind of going the same way. It's tough when you feel like it's, your people are kind of passing you and you're not able to do anything about it, and it's got to be frustrating for him. I'm sure he's putting in the effort, but you can see, like, when he was leading at one of the Triple Crown races and threw it away, that kind of stuff's got to be frustrating. I don't know what was going on last week where I think he ended up not being able to start his electric start motorcycle. He's been to the LCQ 2 rounds in a row. He really needs to stop that. He needs to get out of the heats and get up front, and he's going to have to win some races, I think, to win this title. Otherwise, it's going to get away from him. The only thing that's helped him, like I said, is the fact that Ferrandis gets terrible starts and has things happen to him, and Faulkner has been, either a win or crash. He's been the cow so far this season. This week he's got, maybe have some longer whoops, and those seem to have been Faulkner's problem too. He's been having issues in them. So I don't know, unless Faulkner starts becoming more consistent and Ferrandis gets the starts figured out, I think he's going to stay in this to the end in terms of being close to the points lead. But I don't know that I've seen the raw speed so far where he's going to be able to take this thing and really pull it out. So I think it's real important for him. If he's going to do it, he really needs to do it this week. He needs to stop that, stop the blood flow there, stem the tide a little bit and get some of the momentum back. And he really needs his two major competitors to have kind of an off night there. I don't know. If I had money on it, like I said, I think Ferrandis is probably going to take this title, but I'm looking to see, how Justin bounces back this week and see if he can at least get out of the heat race and transfer directly to the main.
Number 5.
All right, my fifth and final question for round 6. Are we going to see another great track this weekend? So far, we've had some great racing and some really good tracks. I mean, one of the Anaheim rounds, I thought the track was only okay, but in general, we've seen good racing at every event. The tracks have been good. I don't think we've had any stinkers. They're doing a great job of, even though the tracks are very different in layout and the stadiums are very different, all the tracks have been pretty conducive to racing and passing. I've been real happy with that. It seems like most of them had options. There seems to be kind of an interesting off-camber turn in this race. I remember we had something like this back in the 90s where I think it was I think Larry Ward or somebody got out of control and hit the off camera and hit Chicken in the head, and it was ended up getting in a fight after the race. Anyway, those off cameras are kind of weird. You don't see them very often in a Supercross track. Typically, it's much more something you'd see off in an outdoor track. And I don't know how effective it'll be, but I'm hoping for another exciting night of racing. I hope the track is good. Hopefully, it won't get any rain or anything crazy to screw it up. San Diego's been the sign of some great racing over the years. Chad Reed's always fast there. Hopefully, he'll be back this weekend and maybe keep the things interesting. Hopefully get out of the LCQ himself this week. So my question is, are we going to see another great track? Can we make it, 6 in a row excellent tracks this year? Hope we can keep that on a roll and keep it going. So there you have it. Those are my 5 questions for the 6th round of the 2020 AMA Supercross Series from San Diego. I certainly hope we have another great night of racing. Hopefully Kenny's 100% and we see him and Eli battling at the front. If you like this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you could share it on social media, I would very, very much appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up. It certainly helps us grow. I want to give a little plug to Pulp MX. This week, I just posted an article that I spent months and months researching and many, many, many countless hours writing. Clocks in at about 14,000 words. It was a long one. And what I did was I took the history of American motocross, going all the way back to the mid-60s, and I broke it down into the 10 events that I think kind of shaped the sport we see today. I thought that would make it kind of an interesting way to tell that story. I'm real proud of it. It took me, like I said, a lot of work. And originally I had written it back in 2012, but when we switched the site over to WordPress, the article got all messed up, all the pictures are gone and what have you. So when I went back to kind of fix it, I decided, you know what? I think my writing has gotten better over the last 8 years of writing for Pulp. And plus, I think some of the stuff I was referencing was dated now. There's references to Villapoto's reign and stuff like that. So the riders have changed, all that stuff. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite the thing. So I rewrote that whole article, and we just posted it this week. So I would love you to go read it. I would love to know what you think. I certainly appreciate all the support, all the kind words everybody gives me, but I want to make sure we get a shout out there. And, I spent so much time on it. I would love to have everybody read it and see what you think. So again, it's at pulpmx.com. Should be right on the front page. If it's not, if you're looking at this video later, just do a little search. It's called Motocross History, the Events That Shaped American Motocross. So if you can check that out, I'd appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is Tony Blazer. Peace.